I think in order to strengthen U.S.-Japan ties, and I think for my role specifically, it stems with kind of being able to vocalize on even the lowest level, just with peer groups or even and through educational means, like the relationships that I've seen kind of growing up with both cultures. Example of this is a couple years ago, I actually turned down a job to work at a tech company here to pursue this project. I got money from school. Um, and it might sound really ridiculous. I was comparing Osamu Tezuka's The Phoenix comic manga series to Homer's The Odyssey. And one of the things that I wanted to show was in high school, growing up from Japan, I read a lot of different manga and comics. And to me, I thought a lot of the literature and storytelling was not that different than a lot of the Western literature that we're forced to read in classrooms in the US. And I remember I was ridiculed by a high school teacher about this because she's like, "Oh, there's no way you can do this. This is so stupid. Like, this is like real literature. This is words. This is, there's all these literary voices and all these things are used. A comic is just scribbled pictures and dumb dialogue." And, I just kind of took that to heart and I kept it in my head. And I wanted to pursue this project because I thought to myself, this is an interesting thing to kind of show to Americans who might not be exposed to this culture, that this is actually a great way to learn storytelling and narrative structure and to emphasize all those different kind of themes that we talk about in the classroom. And so there was like a small project that I did, but I remember I was working with a classics professor, and he's like, his focus is Homeric poetry. Homer is like what he studied, and he was so surprised by this, and he loved the idea of being able to compare the two, and it was very eye-opening to have the experience. And I remember I got a chance to present that to a classroom full of professors, and it was a really wonderful experience because it kind of opened their eyes up to a whole different kind of side of literature.
So I think one of the main ways that I've served as like a bridge between U.S. and Japan is my involvement with Skylabo, which is a nonprofit organization that was started by Stanford graduates, and they had kind of two main purposes. One of them being promoting or encouraging girls in Japan, teenage girls in Japan, to pursue a STEM-related field or career, because right now in Japan, like there's like the ratio between like men and women in the STEM field is very, very, there's so much more males in like STEM related, careers. Skylabo serves is teaching design thinking, which is a human-centered approach to innovation. It was born at Stanford, and it's very much, I guess, popular in Silicon Valley. So I guess combining those two purposes, their main goal was to promote STEM kind of studying through design thinking, and they host like a week-long design thinking boot camp in Japan. They've been doing it for the past 2 summers, and my role during this boot camp is to serve as like a bilingual coach, because what they do is they have a Stanford professor who comes to Japan with us and teaches design thinking to teenage girls who signed up for this boot camp. And my role was to be like a translator. So that was my official role. I was supposed to be a bilingual coach that would, help translate the professor's instructions so that the girls really understand, fully understand design thinking, so that they can, incorporate it, to whatever, problems they face in the future.
For me, sparking informal dialogue has been the one mode of trying to spread the Japanese culture. For example, through the Reischauer Scholars Program, I did my research on Godzilla, and many people regard Godzilla to just be a film monster, something that's more marketable than it is holding any sort of, I guess, value. But something that I learned after researching it is it holds a lot of sentimental value to the Japanese people. It shows their post-war, I guess, pain and their despair, especially with the atomic bombs of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So in order to, I guess, spread that message, I just had dialogues with my peers. And initially it was just more comical, right? It's Godzilla. Why are you doing research on just a film character? But once they started to understand where I was coming from, that's when people started regarding this character with more sentimental value. And it was through this informal dialogue that we can create that bridge, that, I guess, mode of understanding someone else. I just felt like I brought a lot of new perspectives to the program. I don't have any Japanese friends, never been to Japan. I don't have any political background, any economic background. So I guess the whole vision of me as an American or me as a Japanese scholar was a bit tainted or not as clear as just your stereotypical American. But hopefully, I thought the one image I brought to the Japanese students in the eJapan program was America is much more diverse than we think it is. Especially coming from the Bay Area, that's one thing that I vouch for, diversity. So I hope that they can see that America isn't just McDonald's or baseball. It's something much more than that.